And welcome back to the show where we're going to take a look now at another horror movie that is in cinemas right now. This is called The First Omen, and it's a prequel to the 1976 movie The Omen. And of course, this is actually the sixth movie in the franchise, but work out the timeline, it actually goes back in time and becomes practically the first film. Now, it centers around a young nun called Margaret, played by Nell Tiger Free, who is sent to Italy to go into a convent where she is to train to become a nun. Now, when she first arrives, she's confronted by Father Brennan, played by Ralph Ineson, who believes that there's kind of an occult-driven horror kind of forming within the Catholic Church. At the very start of the movie, we see him meet with another father, Father Harris, to discuss what is happening. And he's given a photograph with a baby with the name Sienna on it before Harris is then killed. So Father Brennan tries to get Margaret on side, but it doesn't really work straight away for him because she's actually kind of drawn to Carlita, played by Nicole Soras, and refuses to believe his warning that bad things are going to happen around her. She's also of the firm belief that everything at the convent that she's going to is above board because it's being run by Cardinal Lawrence, played by Bill Nye, who is someone that she knows from her past. He was at the orphanage where she grew up, so she refuses to believe what Father Brennan is saying, but soon some of the things that he has predicted starts to come true. Now, Lee, what were your thoughts on The First Omen as a movie? Because I know you do actually like the original film, The Omen.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting having a prequel because your mind's always been on the film that's already been around for many years, and so you're wondering, oh my goodness, how are they going to explain the past? And of course, you're always wanting to know the background. So it's always an exciting time to have a prequel if they do it well. Now, I'm also always intrigued about spiritual type movies, and of course, this being set in a convent, and there's, I guess, a bit of a mystery around, is this demonic stuff happening, or is some of it human, humans doing the worst that humans can do to one another, and harming others and taking control. And so in this movie, there is some of both. But yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but there were moments in the movie where I'm sickened by what people will do, and how they will treat each other and cover up things, which we see in real life as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of abuse in churches, and churches can be a safe place. Churches can be a place of community and healing and joy and worship, and all those things. But there are those that abuse those powers and turn it into something else. And so, with this film, you see some of that, and you're kind of struck by what humans will do to one another. I thought the performances were brilliant. I was intrigued by, of course, Margaret, the character of Margaret, and just kind of on her journey of figuring out what's happening to her own body, and the people that she interacts with. There's some mystery there, and you're kind of wanting to know, well, how is that going to work out? I really like the performance of Father Brennan, as you mentioned, and played by Ralph Ineson. Is that how you pronounce his last name? And also the friend, she's also a nun named Luz, or she's becoming a nun. and played by Maria Caballero.
Yep.
She was quite a mysterious and intriguing character, and she really drew you in. Just as she drew in Margaret, the character, she also draws you in, and you think she's fascinating, and you're kind of wondering, why is she becoming a nun when she wants to be so worldly, and she, is trying to, I guess, have her last days as a free woman before she actually takes her vows. And so that's an intriguing storyline as well.
Technically, though, there's no reason why a nun can't leave the convent and go to a nightclub, and listen to music and stuff like that, even after they've had their vows.
No,
it's a very kind of antiquated way that we look at nuns, but they can actually take their habit off and go to a cinema and watch a movie and stuff like that. They're not confined.
Yeah. I think the way that movies portray it, though, is that once they take their vows, they're so spiritual or so holy that they wouldn't be seen in those places.
Yeah.
So I think, that's part of what's set up, as you're thinking she's doing a few things before she finally takes her vows. But you kind of are picking up that something's not right there as well. And so that storyline, I found fascinating. And I actually liked her storyline at times a bit more even than the main storyline.
Yeah.
And I had wished that had expanded more. I wished the storyline of Lux had been actually longer and deeper. In fact, there could be a spin-off of that one, I think. That would be amazing. To find out how she became. Now, Bill Nye is a great actor. When I saw his name was going to be in it, I am always excited that he's, part of that franchise. And he plays Cardinal Lawrence, and you've already alerted to maybe things aren't as clear cut with him as made out at the start of the film.
Yeah, and suddenly poor Charles Dance doesn't make it past the first 5-minute mark of the film. So
he's not in it very long. No. He plays Father Harris.
Yeah.
So you've got some great cast members here, and for a spiritual movie, it's very intriguing. And of course, I don't want to give away the ending, but obviously it's a prequel, so we know some of what happens leads into another film. But I had some extra questions about the ending, which I can't really share right now. What did you think, Dave?
Yeah, look, I was really excited to see this movie because of the director, Akasha Stevenson, who I felt had done such a great job on a kind of supernatural horror from a few years ago called Brand New Cherry Flavor on Netflix. I was kind of excited to go and see this because Akasha Stevenson was the director. I like The Omen, but I'm not a huge Omen fan, so it wasn't like I needed to see this movie because of the Omen films or anything like that. But I found what I really liked about this movie was Akasha Stevenson kind of really made this feel like a European horror. Even though it was set in Europe with Hollywood money behind it, it felt more European. A few people have said to me it even felt like it was shot in the 70s. This is the kind of movie that you would have... Like this is the kind of horror movie that you would have expected to be coming out of Italy or France in the 70s. It's a pretty vicious film. Like, you consider so many of the popcorn horrors that we get these days, and this does go back to the 70s and 80s where horror films were kind of nasty. A few of the people in this film meet some pretty grisly but inventive deaths, and I actually really, really like that about this movie, that there's... and I kind of expected it a little bit from Akasha Stevenson because their last few films, like I said before, Brand New Cherry Flavor, literally had that vibe to it as well. So I think we're living in a pretty exciting time in cinema where when a director goes back and makes a movie like this that's called a period piece where it's set in the past, they try to capture that time. Like we've just seen it with Kirsten Stewart's new movie, Love Lies Bleeding, where it's set in the 1980s, and the film looks and feels like it's been shot in the 80s, that it is an 80s kind of crime thriller. So, yeah, really, really excited about that. I thought Nell Tiger-Free was fantastic in this film. They put her through, as an actress, some pretty intense scenes in this. And I also think that the actress that played Carlita, Nicole Cerise, is pretty good as well, because she has some pretty full-on scenes as well. But I was like you, I was excited to see Bill Nye and Charles Dance and people like that involved. I think Ralph Ineson, does an amazing job as Father Brennan. So, look, I'm actually giving thumbs up to the first Omen. I wasn't sure what to expect from this movie, but I just love its European film feel. So, Lee, what are you going to give the first Omen out of 5 and why?
I'm giving this 3 out of 5. It is something that, I found fascinating. I was a little surprised that there was a bit more of human evilness than maybe satanic evilness at times, or demonic. So there's a little bit more of that than I was expecting. But yeah, I for a horror film, I thought it was good, and as you would expect, I think.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I love that it's got that 1970s European horror feel. Like this instantly kind of places this movie up there amongst some of those top European directors. I can't wait to see what Akasha Stevenson does next. I think they've got an amazing career ahead of them as a director. But thumbs up to this. And I'm not always a fan of when they do prequels to famous horror films, but I thought this one worked really well, so I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. So this is a general release, so if you want to check out the first Omen, check out your local cinema guide to see where it's showing near you. What did you give it again, Lee?
3.
And I'm giving it 4 out of 5, so go along and check out the first Omen.